Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS, and we're speaking with Kim Wahl, who's an alternative medicine advocate. And
we're going to fold up my candida paper, and we're going to do that another day.
Yes, there we go.
But we were getting to Alzheimer's and the effects that, what we are eating and consuming, the effect on the gut, and then the overall effect of that it has on our body. And this impact, I think we're seeing up and down our chain of very young to very old. And it's a sad thing that, we're not delving in to the realities of what we might be able to do about it now in terms of trying not to eat certain foods. I mean, you go to Whole Foods, you go to Trader Joe's, you go to the places that, are purer. But the sad part is that we've mentioned is FDA and the folks that are supposed to have our back are not, they just don't have our back.
No, they got really fat vacation homes.
So we had mentioned during the break, because this has been a topic, not Candida, but cannabis, on this radio show, and here in Santa Clarita, it's a problem in the sense that the controversy surrounding that says that this is a gateway drug for young people, which it is. I mean, I think all of us have to believe that. But for my patients, as I've said it here before many times, my senior and middle-age patients who use cannabis in any form, one, have no addiction to it, and it is not a gateway into opiates for them. So I see a problem with cannabis in our kids because they are affected by peer pressure. And I think education helps to dampen that a little bit if we're really careful. But if we ignore the fact that in November of this year, it's going on the ballot. We have medicinal use of marijuana in the state of California right now, but we will be having recreational use. And if we're not prepared here in Santa Clarita, those younger kids who might have a problem with peer pressure might use it as a gateway. So I think we need to talk about what's going to happen to anticipate what our needs are going to be.
Well, the interesting thing as far as cannabis oil is concerned, it doesn't have the THC.
Right, and that's actually coming, depending on the strain, most of that's coming from a hemp plant, yes. Which is high in CBDs, which has THC, but it's very, very minimal.
Very, very minimal.
And it has...
It wouldn't affect you.
But the bottom line is if we look at the cannabinoids in the product, there's many different ones. There's THC, there's CBDs, there's THC, blah, blah, blah. I don't know them all. But each one of them have different properties. And I agree with you. It does. If it's legalized, it's just like anything. It's not looking at the substance. It's looking at the behavior of, in this case, somebody who might be an addict. They're going to be addicted to anything. It could be food. It could be TV.
Absolutely.
It could be anything to fill a hole.
If they have an addictive personality.
Yes. It doesn't matter what it is.
No, it doesn't.
Exactly. So it could be anything.
Absolutely.
The key would be to help these children, which I don't think we do in society anymore, to be able to deal with a situation, to be able to handle a situation on their own and find a way to deal with it. It starts when they're little. Let them be frustrated. Let them work it out. Let them find how things work. And don't give them something. In that case, it could be something that sounds silly, but something as a piece of candy or sugar to shut them up or to calm them or to bribe them. So right away, we're creating a behavior that just goes on into adulthood. And now, exactly. So exactly I think cannabis as a product is going to change the world. Why it is not in medicine the way it should be is because you can't patent it and nobody can make $1 million off of it. And people are actually using marijuana, CBDs, and actually a blend of the CBD and the THC as well to get people off of opiate drug addiction because it doesn't have that same thing. The trick is this. You have cannabinoid receptors in your body. In your brain. It's a part of who you are. Cannabinoids come from certain foods. It just is very high in hemp. Hemp is one of the most amazing things out there. And it's very interesting because I've had some experience lately myself with doing some products for people for pain, for animals with cancer. My sister, as I've spoke on the show before, my sister uses it. She has MS, severe MS, and it actually gives her a little bit of quality of life. So it gives a little bit of dignity in her life. And she's tried all kinds of different other things. And a lot of times these people have tried all the pharmaceuticals and can't live with the side effects or the addictive. And like I said, it can be as simple as a woman or somebody going in for a surgery and they give you this pain pill to take. And the next thing you know, you don't realize it, but your body's like, oh yeah. And
I need it.
Exactly. And that is the new, heroin epidemic in our world. And it's crazy because even with marijuana, if you look at the history of marijuana, it was good old Mr. Hearst and his newspaper and Mr. DuPont and his polyester that were part of shutting this down in our world because
Reefer madness.
You're darn right, and that is the funniest damn thing in the world to watch. I actually watched it the other day, cracked me up. But the sad thing is DuPont didn't want it because hemp is a fiber that was going to compete with his polyester, and Hearst didn't want it because he had just bought hundreds of thousands of acres of trees for newspaper production, and hemp we could do the same thing. So and it's sad how much of our world is affected because of somebody's. I mean, Rockefellers, Carnegies. You can go all the way back if you really know our history of who has directed and owned us. And I think it's awesome that commercial hemp is actually now, I don't know what the total state number is, but it's up there that each state is going through and passing the growth of commercial hemp again in the United States of America, which has been outlawed for 70 years. So it is happening across the nation that way. We are also seeing it in other situations with the medical. And it's sad how we don't look at the benefits. Like I saw a thing on the news just talking about car accident rates were up in Colorado since marijuana's been legalized. So it's all marijuana's fault. Well, you know what? Again, it goes back to the person and who that person is and what they are in that. No, you're not going to get in the car and smoke something and get in the car and drive. You're not going to drink something and get in a car and drive. That is not the right way to do any of that. But if you have an issue and you're in the privacy of your own home and you're consuming this, and a lot of these people are consuming it as an edible, which is very different in how you process it as opposed to smoking it. But there are people who smoke it, and I've watched many shows on it. Like I said, a lot of the research I was doing for my sister and seeing people that have spasmodic issues and take a puff of this, and within minutes, not even minutes, seconds, they're talking normally and all their behaviors have changed because it's relaxed that in them. So there is something to that. The sad thing is why aren't we using it? Our United States of America has patents on cannabinoids. They have patents on it because they know it cures cancer. They know that it will dissolve a cancerous tumor. We know that it can affect, we've seen it now, a big siege with epilepsy in children, autism children that aren't speaking or doing. And these parents are giving this in their brains and these children are balancing out. Who cares what it is if it's doing the right thing?
That's right.
It's not going to kill you. You can't OD on it. It's not like some of these other pharmaceuticals. And yet we have such a stigmatism to it. And it's crazy that we believe this is what it is. Well, who were you that said this is what it? I've always wondered, who are they? And what do they really know? Are they living in the real world right now? Are they seeing what, this situation of what's going on? We've drugged a whole generation of children with ADD and Adderall and all these stupid drugs. And what are those drugs? What are those drugs? You can tell us, can't you, Doc?
Yep.
They're stimulants. They're stimulants. So we're raising a generation of kids kind of on coke, on meth. We're raising them on stimulants. And then we wonder why this happens. And again, it's not about looking at that. It's about the wholeness of who we are as people. And yes, I say take away the stigmatism, put it out there just like alcohol or anything else. You want to purchase it, you purchase it, you pay a tax on it, you abuse it and you can get a ticket, you can go to jail. But our jails right now are filled with I think the numbers 80% are filled with people that have just had marijuana possession, which if you think
Soft
about
crimes.
it, exactly, what you think about it is ridiculous. And what we spend on prisons and what that costs us as a state.
It has increased faster than the healthcare system by far, that prison system. Yeah. But what they've done is they've made the prison system privatized. So because they have, it's all because of money. So in terms of there's a stigma, but also the laws have been pushed in a direction where cannabis, marijuana, is classified as a Schedule 1
Which
drug.
means it has no health benefits.
That's right. And so because it's been pushed into that arena, then you can't do any experimentation. Our data is coming from Canada, the European countries, people who are studying this, but they're not doing that here.
No. Well, there was a study done, and I don't have the numbers because I didn't know we were going to discuss this, or I would have all the exact information. But there was a study done probably 40, 50 years ago where somebody hired this gentleman to look at cannabis use in other countries that use it for pregnant women, that use it for morning sickness and nausea and things like that. And they wanted this gentleman to prove that this behavior, what's going on, was damaging these children. And this man found the complete opposite out, that these children had higher IQs, they were healthier, everything about it was better. Well, they didn't want that answer, so all that information was thrown away and hidden. Exactly, and that's the thing. The information is out there. It has been studied, it has been researched. And believe it or not, some of the drug companies out there right now are trying to make genetically modified cannabis, so that exactly, so that they can patent it. Again, you don't need to change it. You don't need to. This is what I think. No, and this is where people really, again, people need to step back and look at a bigger picture. The real problem is this: we don't want to be consuming cannabis that's been grown with chemicals that are antifungals or this or that. We want organic cannabis. Because if I'm going to take in cannabis into the body and it's coming with, because sometimes the way these, and I didn't even think about this, but we have a friend who grows it for his wife. And he was saying you don't, exactly, and you don't realize how many chemicals, because these things are grown so fast. These guys are turning these crops over, so they're giving them artificial light and artificial things to make them grow faster.
In terms of the bugs and things
right.
You can
so if we really want to look at it, we want it to be organic because we want it for the benefit of everything. And the same thing, we want it to be that way even if it goes commercial, because whomever consuming it, we don't want that pesticide in there. That doesn't need to be a part of it. And again, it's about understanding what is what and how it affects our body.
Well, the whole problem also is, and you mentioned it about the study that they had on television last night, I think it was NBC, but they talked about the increased accident rate with drivers who were DUID, driving under the influence of drugs. And I think there was an organization someone was just starting to put out there because I think his child died because of somebody driving under the influence. And I've said here on this radio show countless number of times, if there's somebody in Santa Clarita that can figure out a way of measuring cannabis levels in the blood, just like we do with alcohol, the breathalyzer, well, you will probably live in Bel Air or somewhere around the world, but you will make a lot of money if you can develop that instrument to be able to measure it.
And again, though, it's looking,
you've got to quantitate
and it's exactly, but you're looking at it, if somebody was doing it as a therapeutic in a certain level in their body, that might not be as effective in changing that as opposed to someone else.
If you're impaired and you're at like a 0.8 and you're impaired, then you know you can't go out and drive.
Exactly. Well, again, that goes back to the
you get your therapeutic dosing.
Right. But how many people
sit at home?
How many people are out on the road right now, though, on their opiates, pain medication that says do not drive, and they're driving all over town. So again, that goes back to the person. That goes back to people owning what it is, and punishing everybody for the few. Yeah, that like I said, but we don't have punishment in our world. People can have 2 and 3 drunk drivings, and you got enough money, you got enough this, a slap on the wrist, and off you go. So again, it's about ownership and looking at that. I don't think cannabis is the devil that they make it out to be, but again, I think it's educating people on what it is.
Education is
educating people.
That's
Exactly.
the key.
Because if it can change somebody's quality of life, why the heck not? And like I said, I have seen it in personal experiences, and I've seen it with people around me that have said to me, I have just an example. I have a lady who does animals for television, and she has a cat, very close cat, her personal cat, and shut down, was dying, the whole 9 yards, went in, heart failure, blah, 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 blah. Well, I gave her some stuff that I had made for my sister, gave her a little bottle to try for her cat, And she thinks I walk on water now because this cat's life is turned around. And that's what it is. It's quality of life, no matter where you are or who you are. If you're a 5-year-old child and cannabis oil can give you quality of life, why not? Especially if you've tried all the pharmaceuticals that have created a zombie child. And yet you can use something like cannabis oil and change that child's life. Why the heck not? And I look at it as simplistic as this. Why not eat hemp? Eat hemp in your food, eat hemp oil, because you're going to get those cannabinoids, the CBDs, a little every day to keep your brain healthy, to keep your nervous system healthy, to keep your cells working. Now, if I had cancer, I'd go to the concentrated, the hardcore, stuff. But you can always eat it as a part of your natural diet. We do organic hemp hearts, and we do hemp oil in the house. In fact, her breakfast this morning was some yogurt, coconut yogurt, Greek style, with a squirt of hemp oil, 2 scoops of hemp seeds, and some fresh unprocessed coconut. And that was breakfast. And that was filled with fat and protein for her. And that's as simple as it needs to be. I can squirt some hemp oil on my salad, and I'm getting a good fat for my brain. And like you said, Barb, we know what it can do to change the quality of somebody's life. And it's sad that somebody would say, I would never touch that because it's a drug. Well, isn't these other things drugs? You know what I mean? It's crazy how we get stuck into a thought or a belief because somebody has told us that. I think it's time for us to put all that away and see what we really see for ourselves and what's proven in our lives to work and not work, and go with that. If it doesn't work for you, no problem. But if it changes the quality of your life, then my blessing is to you.
You need to do it.
But it is here right now. So
it is.
November, when we have our election,
and it's going to happen.
It is here. It's going to happen. So be mentally ready and to have this discussion.
And like you said, discuss the whole thing, because it's not the substance. It can be anything. There's an addictive issue or a pain somebody's trying to cover up. Help that person. And that's where if we were more connected as human beings and we sat down and shut off all the electronic devices, all of them, and sat down and looked each other eye to eye and actually had a conversation about things, our children might not be needing to fill so many holes.
That's very true, and we need to take another break. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. And we've been speaking with Kim Wahl, an alternative medicine advocate, and we've been really zeroing in on cannabis and the oil from the hemp plant and how good it is for your system, regardless of whether you have any pain or not.
True. True. It's a perfect fat with a perfect blend of your omegas in it. Comes with protein in it. Like I said, the thing is as a country, many states have legalized it to be grown for industrial use. Hopefully we can get to a point where we can have it as a medicinal. We can actually do that and create some clinics and get some data. And we see it. And I think, again, it's kind of crazy how our world is centered around celebrities being the people that are our authorities, but hopefully some of it's true. Hopefully some of these people can make a difference and talk about these things and, not be afraid to come out and say, this is what it is and this is what we've used. In fact, Whoopi Goldberg just came out with a product that she's promoting that's a cannabis product for PMS. It's for cramps. It's
not called Whoopi.
And I don't think it's called that. But she said she might lose her job on her TV show because of her stance. And isn't this not America?
That's ignorance.
That is
it is.
So
that's
sad.
too bad.
But who owns the? But it goes back again to who owns the television studio, and who owns this, and up the chain it goes back up to those Carnegies and Rockefellers and people like that who don't want us to use natural. They want us to use petrochemical drugs because that's what they manufacture and that's what they promote. And the beauty is to look at it from the other point of view and say, well, wait a minute, we're tired of your pharmaceuticals. Look what it's got us as a country. It's got us pretty sick. We're one of the sickest countries out there. We are not top of the line in education and health and
Not
all
anymore.
these things.
No.
We are nowhere near
Nowhere
that.
near it.
We are a drugged out, depressed, like I said, flip your television on. We are a drugged out, depressed society. I say unplug from that. Say I'm done with that. You know what, doctor? I want you to write me a prescription so I can use some of these things that are maybe going to be more beneficial. Maybe I have a little bit of a cannabis cookie every single night or a cannabis medicinal oil or something to help. I know I got it for my sister-in-law when she had cancer. And it broke my heart because she couldn't sleep. She was in so much pain. And so I got her one that was a marijuana cannabis blend, but it was a sleepy one. Mm-hmm. And when she passed away, that bottle came back and it wasn't even open. And it broke my heart. She was taking drugs that were tearing her up and bleeding from every orifice and just so much pain. And she wouldn't take that, obviously, because of the stigmatism, she thought. She asked me for it. I went and got it for her, and I got her a couple other things, to try. And nope, I can't do it because of the stigmatism.
My doctor gave me a prescription, and that's how I got it from my son.
Yeah.
But
Because
when
he
we
needed a prescription to get it.
You do. You do need one now.
I took the CBD pills, and after
Because trust me, when it becomes legal, they're not going to be buying that kind of stuff because it's too expensive. They're not going to be buying the medicinal CBDs, and they're not going to be buying that. They're going to be buying something they get at a liquor store or whatever. It's going to be rolled up. It's going to be probably low grade. It's going to be a different thing. So again, we need to be educated on what cannabis and hemp is and what it does. Edible, smokable, quantity, quality, all those things matter. And I agree with you, Dr. Dorio. It needs to happen now so that the doctors and the parents are out there, are ahead of the game, because the parents have been all taught reefer madness. That's not the truth.
No,
the truth was hidden because the truth was more empowering to the people, and we were not allowed to be empowered. But we want to make sure, and nothing else, that these children, and that doesn't matter, because you look at somebody sits down and have a bottle of wine at dinner, and that's okay. What happens if somebody sits down and has a joint with dinner? Is that not okay? Again, you see what I'm saying? It's the stigmatism of the this or the that.
But if we ignore the problem,
then it's only going to become,
we will be ignorant of the problem. That's the big problem here in Santa Clarita. And in the newspaper today, it said that there may have been the 4th death from drug overdose here in our community. Yeah. And if we don't have this discussion, and I know at this radio station we have people on the other side that say, no, we don't want these drugs here. But it's a reality that's going to happen. And if we don't sit down and have this discussion, we're not going to be prepared to give the education needed to those who might be more susceptible as a gateway drug.
That's exactly
and
right.
you want to have that clarification of what is what and understand it, because that's the whole thing. If you don't have the truth, then you can't make that educated choice of what is best for me or not. Because there's a lot of parents out there who have used pharmaceutical drugs, and I've read so many of the stories and read the horror of what their children went through, and by using cannabis oil on them and their lives turned around, I say that's awesome. It's quality of life. Now, I'm not advocating, like you said, let's do this, let's get in a car. No, nobody should do any of that ever, because you should never compromise anybody else's life. And your quality of life sometimes does that. So we want to make sure that you're not, but on the same sense, we shouldn't be denied that. If I have cancer, and my doctor should be able to tell me, Kim, how do you want to handle this? And I should be able to say, I want to do cannabis oil. I want to do cannabis suppositories and be okay with it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I think we need to have this discussion, Kim, and we've had it here on the radio show, but I think all of us want to get this to evolve further in this city so that we don't have our 5th, 6th, and 7th deaths from these hardcore medications. So let's all work on that, and let our listening audience come in and say something about this as well.
The more we understand it, the more it cannot control us.
Absolutely. Kim Wahl, thanks for being
My
on the
pleasure,
show.
guys, as always.
Yes.
We are sponsored by Advanced Audiology and SCV in Home Care. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.